Good morning. To be with you. Good to be with you today on this great Wednesday. I hope you are having a wonderful week as we continue together in our time in Ruth. Today we're going to continue to see today's chapter of Ruth is an interesting chapter. One that there are certain parts of the Bible that we read that sound out of tune in our modern context. And today's verse is a passage such as that. So we're going to read Ruth 3. It's a very interesting passage. And we're going to see once again the notion of kindness being a key theme in this passage. But let's read Ruth chapter 3. One day Ruth's mother-in-law Naomi said to her, "My daughter, I must find a home for you where you will be well provided for. Now, Boaz, whose women you have worked, is a relative of ours. Tonight he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Wash, put on perfume, get dressed in your best clothes, then go down to the threshing floor, but don't let him know you are there until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, know the place where he is lying. Then go and uncover his feet and lie down. He will tell you what to do." "I will do whatever you say," Ruth answered. So she went down to the threshing floor and did what her mother-in-law told her to do. When Boaz had finished eating and drinking, he was in good spirits. He went over to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. In the middle of the night, something startled the man. He turned, and there was a woman lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am your servant Ruth," he said. "Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a guardian redeemer of our family." "The Lord bless you, my daughter. This kindness is greater than which you showed earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid, for I will do all that you ask. And all the people in my town know that you are a woman of noble character. Although it is true that I am guardian redeemer of our family, there is another who is more closely related than I. Stay here for the night. In the morning, if he wants to do his duty as your guardian redeemer, good. Let him redeem you. But if he is not willing, as surely as the Lord lives, I will do it. Lie here until morning." So she lay at his feet until morning, but got up before anyone could be recognized. And he said to her, "No one must know that a woman came to the threshing floor." But he also said, "Bring out the shawl you are wearing and hold it out." So she did so. He poured into it 6 measures of barley and placed it in the bundle on her. Then he went back to town. When Ruth came to her mother-in-law, Naomi asked, "How did it go, my daughter?" She told her everything that Boaz had done for her and added, "He gave me these 6 measures of barley, saying, 'Do not go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed.'" Then Naomi said, "Wait, my daughter, until you find out what happens. For the man will not rest until the matter is settled today." Okay, so let's talk about what Ruth is doing. Let's talk about what Boaz is doing. And let's talk about how this all plays out in regards to kindness. Remember, um, Ruth is a widow, and she has received several measures of pain and grief. Her husband has died, so she is a widow. She is in a foreign country and land because she's in Israel. Remember, she's a Moabite, as we saw many times yesterday. She's a Moabite. So she is in a place that is not her home. She is with her mother-in-law, who her mother-in-law has lost her husband and lost her son, Ruth's husband, as well as her Ruth's brother-in-law, her other son. So Ruth and Naomi both have had multiple levels of grief in their life. And part of it's not uncommon in our culture, but it is different. What do you wear to a funeral? You wear black. There are certain customs and certain things we do to show we're grieving. It's very common. I joke that we Southerners grieve with a casserole. If someone dies, loved ones are going to bring food. It's one of the things I always ask when I visit somebody who's grieving or someone who's died, as a family member died. I say, "Do you need food? Does the church need to bring you something? Do we need to have food for you?" I grew up in a church that had funeral customs. In fact, it's funny. I tell people every part of the state that I've served in ministry has had different customs of funerals. Growing up in the country where I grew up, I didn't realize people had funerals in the funeral home because every funeral I went to as a child was at Johnson Chapel because the cemetery is right outside. We do the service in the sanctuary. We'd go right across the parking lot of the cemetery and we'd bury them. Then we'd come back inside and eat in the fellowship hall. That's what we did with my mama. We did the service. We did the few. We took the coffin to the cemetery. We buried her. We came back inside and we ate. That's what you do in the country. So going to funeral homes was weird for me. Like, what are we doing? You have the service in the church and you eat in the church. And anyway, the custom in that day was your dress and your appearance. So with Ruth, putting on her the you could almost translate verse 3 says, wash, put on perfume, and get dressed in your best clothes. Put on your Sunday best. Put on your best clothes. Like put on your clothes for a party. Wash, clean. When your appearance is now saying, my time of grief is over. I'm now desirous of marriage. She is communicating with her appearance and her dress. The time of grieving is over. So that's what that's about. And then the lying at his feet, uncovering his feet, that is a provocative thing. That is a flirtatious thing. That is there's a lot of debate about exactly the metaphors and these type things, but it is implying to Boaz, I am, I'm ready. My time of grief is over. I'm desirous of marriage. Basically, it's Ruth showing to Boaz, I desire marriage. Boaz is what's called is called guardian redeemer in the NIV. The King James, other translators call it kinsman redeemer. There's the right in the custom of the day for a close relative of Abimelech to redeem the property, and also that goes with it, which would be Ruth. So that's what he's saying. Listen, um, there's someone closer kin than me. He has the right to redeem the property and redeem you, and if so, you'll have to marry him. That's God's will. But if he doesn't, then I will. And he says, remember kindness, kindness. The Lord bless you, my daughter. This kindness is greater than that which you have shown earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether they be rich or poor. Boaz has shown kindness to Ruth and to Naomi. Even here, he gives more grain for Naomi. He tells Ruth, you are a woman of noble character. You see that once again, over and over and over in this story, you see the power of redemptive kindness, how showing kindness to someone and not just being nice, not just being nice, but be truly being empathetic, doing the best thing for them, doing it for a redemptive purpose, almost calling someone to be faithful in return because of the graciousness of the action. Ruth showed honor and kindness to Boaz, whereas a young woman, she didn't desire marriage to a younger man, but she desired the kinsman redeemer, the man who had showed kindness to her by allowing her to glean and to do more for her mother-in-law. And even then after this, he says, I will take care of this. And here, take these 6 measures of grain to your mother-in-law. Over and over and over and over, we see kindness paying itself forward. So that's what's happening here. And then, so when you read the story in our context, you're like, huh, there's a lot of strange things going on here. This isn't the way a marriage proposal typically works. This isn't how me and Holly got engaged. It involves rose bushes and Southern Miss and a Chinese restaurant in Brookhaven primarily. We took pictures of the Rose Garden, but I proposed at a Chinese restaurant, which might not be much better than the threshing floor if you really think about it, I guess. So, but this is Ruth showing to Boaz, my time of grief is over, and I'm desiring a marriage, and you are the one that I desire. And Boaz seeing Ruth's faithfulness and kindness to him, and that she doesn't go to the younger, but she goes to the faithful and to the good. And then Boaz's kindness once again to Ruth, but also to Naomi. And so Ruth is going to hammer in our head, just do the right and kind thing. We don't need to respond tit for tat. We need to always respond with the best, most merciful, most kind, most loving thing, because that can be something that changes someone's life. You never know what your act today does for someone else and for their eternity. And tomorrow, the coming days rather, we're going to see how these acts of kindness now in this story, how it impacts me and you to this day. So it's a pretty cool story. So anyway, that's what's happening in chapter 3 with some unique passages. So tomorrow we'll pick up with chapter 4, and we'll be through with Ruth soon. Then we're going to go to Esther after that. I think two really cool stories in the Old Testament. So hey, thanks for being with us. Stay warm, stay safe. We'll see you in the morning. Have a great day.